Love is a universal emotion that glues together romantic relationships in all human societies. It's so intriguing in the fact that it manifests itself in different ways according to culture. Psychologists have split romantic groups into two different cultures to easily observe and question how cultures may impact and influence behaviors. Society within individualistic cultures think in terms of I. This means that they focus on the well-being of the individual rather than the group, and sometimes immediate family. They are very independent, and their goal is self-actualization throughout life. They express individual identity, and in relationships, tasks always prevail over the relationship. On the other hand, we have collectivistic cultures who think in terms of we. So instead of thinking of oneself, they think and focus on the well-being of an entire group, usually the family they're born into. They are very interdependent on one another, and in life, their goals are harmony and senses. Unlike individualistic cultures where you express yourself, they restrain from expressing themselves to fit into a group. Also, their relationship prevails over any task. Most individualistic cultures make up Western societies like United States, Australia, Great Britain, Canada, and Netherlands. How do we figure out that culture affects love? Well, in 2011, a cross-cultural study conducted by Demunk, Karatayev, and Kalaturina compared the United States, Lithuania, and Russia to study the impact of individualistic and collectivistic values on universal love. This study was inspired by the first ever cross-cultural study in 1992 by John Wayek and Fisher, who were the first to conclude that romantic love is universal. So the second study questioned and also proved that if romantic love is cross-cultural universal, we should be able to find a common prototypical core of definitional features among the three cultures under study. So the study was based off of a questionnaire that contained statements about love, and there were 1,157 people who were answering these 14 questions. It was United States representing individualistic cultures, Lithuania and Russia representing collectivistic cultures, and all three countries happened to agree on the same core of love. But as the studies proved, yes, they all agreed on the core of love, but some values change according to culture. We could see that in the individualistic culture, that Americans valued altruism more importantly than any other country. Also, Americans viewed love as more realistic, including friendship as romance. When we look at Russia and Lithuania, friendship and comfort was non-existent. Also, 58% of Americans fall in love within 2 months to a year. We can really tell that culture has a huge influence on love when we look at the fact that Russia and Lithuania resembled each other most when they were only picking statements according to love in their cultures. And the fact that America was very different and didn't fit into the same category just shows that there is a difference between individualistic and collectivistic. We see that Russia and Lithuania believe love is an unreal fairy tale that might happen, but if it does happen, maybe real love can happen, or it might be temporary. And also that 90% of Lithuanians fall in love within a month or less. That is a huge difference from American culture. Journal of Comparative Studies compared attitudes toward romanticism and preference for qualities to differentiate values in romantic relationships based on level of industrialization in three cultures. They included the USA, India, and Turkey. They did this by ranking importance of 10 qualities in finding a mate. The Journal of Comparative Studies believed that this would only be fair according to Erik Erikson's late adolescence and young adulthood is a time of identity and intimacy development in a period when interpersonal relationship becomes a primary preoccupation. So they focused only on recording university students from Turkey, United States, and India. The American culture was most industrialized, and we can see how the culture is interrelated with family of origin factors because American culture is most industrialized compared to the other two countries, and they're not as tightly related to family. So you can see in choosing a mate, it's not affected by family members. A person chooses someone who they think is a perfect match. Also, the relationships are very open in conversation, so the culture is more sexually liberal and permissive. People promote romantic love openly in America by discussing dating and mate selection. Also, it is highly influenced by mass media, so finding a mate is a task and norm for most late adolescents and young adults. American culture is also different because there is a wedded bliss that is wanted at the end of a relationship in the hopes for the rest of their lives. Out of the three countries, Indian culture was least industrialized, which makes sense because they are also most collectivistic, and they believe that love marriage is discouraged because that many might interfere with family closeness and family obligations. So Indian marriages are to be arranged by family members that reflect economic, religious, political, and social considerations. You have a partner that is chosen for you. Turkish culture is newly introduced to Western culture, so it found itself mid-industrialized. They only practice arranged marriage beforehand, but now young people are introduced to each other by prospective families, and these couples go out and make their own decisions if they want to marry that person. They have greater importance to interpersonal reasons such as love and affection than most other countries. Cultural perspectives are important when viewing the expressions of love because we know culture has an impact on people's conceptions of love, so the way they feel, think, and behave in romantic relationships is very different from one another. Viktor Kardashev explains that people can express their love explicitly or implicitly. In American culture, people use verbal expression to say I love you. In Filipino culture, verbal expression is saved for occasion. Since I love you is already known and understood, it is expressed indirectly through mahal, which is sharing thoughts and promises. And in Chinese culture, love is found in action. It is not minimal, it is just omnipresent and understood. We can see that social norms define how most romantic relationships express love. Overall, individualism and collectivism at both society and psychological levels offer insights into the nature of romantic love and its perceived importance for marriage.